Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I want to show you how you can easily install the incredible Bimmertech Alpha One speakers into your Mini Cooper. All right, guys, so let's talk about this project a little bit before we do it in this really just fantastic F87 Countryman Mini Cooper. So I'm really excited to do this, and the Bimmertech Alpha One speakers are really fantastic. So, you know, I'm normally doing BMWs, but Mini Coopers are essentially, they're kind of cousins. BMW makes them and they have a lot of very similar parts, and so Bimmertech, their Alpha One speakers will fit perfectly into this Mini Cooper as well. So I'm really excited to get this project done, and I'm gonna walk you through the whole thing. Now, as some of it is a little bit redundant, I'm just gonna show you some pieces. So I'm gonna show you how to change speakers in the door, in the center console, and then also the subs underneath the seat. All the rest will be equally the same, so we'll just walk through each one first, one door, one seat, and your center channel, and then you'll see how all the rest will flow together. All right, so let's get started. Let's jump into the car. All right, so taking your door card off is really simple. I'm going to show you an example here on the driver's side because it tends to have the most cables and everything hooked into it. But one of the very first things you want to do is pull out this cover. You're going to want to use a plastic trim tool. Just very gently get up underneath the lip of this and pry it out, and this will come out. Now, the rest will flex a little bit. You could always take and pull the handle out a little bit if you need to give yourself a little bit of extra space. And that'll expose the screw here in the center, which should be a T20. So go ahead and take that out now too. So once we got this out, now I'm gonna show you all the rest through the door. All right, so the two other screws you need to take out are right here in the bottom. They're a little hard to show, but I'll just show them with my hand. There's one right here and one right here. They should be T20s again. So go ahead and take both of those out. And then your door card, all we're gonna do at that point is begin to pop the door card off. Now I'm gonna walk through that really, really slowly as we go through it. If your door card's never been off before, it may be really tight, and I would expect it to be. And then you have all of your connections that go through the door as well. But let's walk through that in just a second. Go ahead and take these two screws out, and then we're gonna walk about taking the door card off. All right, so with all three of those screws out, the only thing that's holding your door card in now is a whole series of plastic rivets that punch into the metal of the door frame all the way around. Now, you're gonna wanna use a plastic trim tool and basically your hands. Slide in, get in between the door card and the door, and just work your way in. Now, this is a little more art than science, because you really want to be gentle when you do this. It's possible to break these rivets. I always keep spares around just in case, but if you do it gently, they will come out really, really nicely. What you don't want to do is get one corner off and then just yard on your whole door card. You want to work your plastic trim tool around, start to work them free. I usually will use my hands once I get a rivet popped free, and yeah, these are really tight, which tells me this has probably never been off before. But we'll just work our way around, pop a rivet. Once I get one of the rivets out, I'll actually tend to use my hands underneath to work through and pop each of the rivets as we get all the way around until it's hung just from the top, okay? So as you're pulling this, don't just pull it off and then pull it away from the door, because you also have all your connections. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna loosen all these rivets all the way around, and then I'll show you about taking the door card off itself. Okay, so now once all those rivets are popped, and I've already got the door card off, but I wanna walk you through it because you've got all your connections on the back of the door, and all we need is just the space to be able to get to the speakers. So some of it we're gonna unplug and some of it we're not. So once you get all those lower rivets out, you've got a row of clips here across the top. So if you just pull the card out gently and away from the door, it'll pop free. Lift it up and over your door pin that you can see right there. Once you have that out, you've got your Bowden cable. This is the cable that actually plugs in for your door pull. It has a clip right up here through the back. Pull it out of the clip and then pull it out of the door pull itself. You just lift very gently up and out, and then it's free. Then you have a nylon pin right here that goes into the frame, and one big plug that when you pull that, it's gonna give you a little more room to actually operate, because what we want to do is get to our mid right here and the tweeter right here. That's all we need to do. I don't see a point in unplugging all of the rest just to get your door card off. So what you want to do is I'm going to lean the door card into the cabin of the car itself, and then we can get directly to the speakers, and you'll see how easy that is. Okay, so go ahead and get this kind of set into a safe spot where it's not going to fall over or get damaged, and then we're going to take the speakers out next. All right, so let's go ahead and get the mid out first. You can see you've got your two lines that come up. This is coming out of the head unit itself. So you just want to work that out. Now, these blue plugs, sometimes, as you can tell, that one just came out very easily. Sometimes these are awful. I mean, just, I don't know why, but sometimes these are incredibly hard to get out. If you have one that just simply doesn't want to come out, you can potentially use a pair of needle nose pliers, but you have to be super gentle when you do it, because I've had some of these where they are literally so tight that it's, I mean, you feel like it's been glued into place. But they will come out. If you do end up using a tool, be very gentle, because if you break that plug, well, that's a big problem, okay? So you can unplug the main feed here, and then you can unplug the tweeter, and you can see how these two chain off each other. Now, actually, this plug's a good example. That one fought me a little bit too, as you can see, okay? But then you've got your 3 T20s that go around the outside here. Really nice and easy. And I'll hold this up against the new Alpha One mid here in just a second to show you the difference, because it is really, really tremendous. But as you can tell, this isn't hard work, and this is something you can easily do yourself. Now, also, while I'm thinking about it, if you do get a chance to see my SoundSkins video, I highly recommend it. Make sure to check that out. Okay, so this is out. So let me go and get the other mid, and I'll show you what it looks like in comparison. There is really no comparison. Okay, so here is the new Alpha One mid. Substantially different, not only just in appearance, of course, but in magnet size as well, which makes a tremendous difference. I mean, the HKs are really, they're okay, but that's about as good as you can get. On a scale of 1 to 10, they're probably about a 5. They're okay. They're good enough if you just want to listen to the radio driving to work. But these make a huge difference, just a tremendous difference, okay? So let's get this set, but let's go ahead and take our tweeter off next, and I'll show you how this comes off. Okay, so these are just held in by a series of clips. There's one under the top and the one at the bottom. What I usually will do is you can use a plastic trim tool under this top corner, or just use your thumb and kind of gently pry until that clip comes away. And then just pick and lift away, because there's little hooks here at the bottom that go into the frame. Now there's a little foam backing on this that you just want to peel off. Make sure that it stays intact. Feed all of your existing wiring for the existing tweeter out, and then you can feed out the foam. And then we're gonna get into the tweeter itself. Now, there's a couple of things here with the tweeter when we replace it. You should be able to see there's a series of clips that go around, and you can just use a pick tool to get underneath the actual ridge on the speaker itself and just lift it up through those clips. And once it comes out, once you get one corner out, it'll tend to feed itself out. Every now and then I've run into these where they're glued into place, which is a bit of a drag. So if you do see a bead of glue around the outside, again, use your pick tool to get that glue off, and then it should come free, okay? So go ahead and get your existing tweeter out, and we'll put the new one in. All right, so the new tweeter just goes right back in the same location. Just press it in past those fingers. It should lock into place. Just be gentle when you do it. And then wrap the wiring back around, all the way around to the same feed locations. And then you can press the foam right back into place, just like that. Now you've got the same kind of that noise reduction little fuse box right here. It'll fit into the same groove in the same spot, take up a little bit of that extra cabling because you've got a fair amount of extra there. And you can see it all just fits back in really, really nicely. And you want it to fit seamlessly so it fits back on smoothly. Okay, you can go ahead and put this back on now. So it's gonna be the same thing where you've got the little hooks down here at the bottom. So you're gonna fit the hooks into place, press it up and in just like that. Okay, so now your tweeter's been replaced and it's all set and good to go. Though I wish we could replace the name badging right here. So if you're watching this, hey, send Bimmertech an email and see if they can get replacement plates for the speakers. I want mine to say Alpha One. All right, so now we've got the same wiring that comes around and we're all set to put this into place. You're gonna wanna take your new mid and just put it right back into the same location. Now when you put this in, you'll see that the screw holes really only have one orientation. So just look around, look around, look around, and you can see where it lines up. You're also going to have your same plug locations that go in. Now, with your connection here, you've got an adapter that you're going to want to put on. So make sure to put this adapter into place, and we'll secure it down to the metal of the door frame in here in just a second. But you just take this, plug it in, so don't forget this part. Now, it would be hard to because you can't plug the OEM plug into the side of the speaker here. The other thing is you get in both of these plug locations right here, it really doesn't matter which one you plug into. So as you work this around and fit it in. So go ahead and plug both in, put in your screws, those T20 screws, and then we're gonna put this door back together. And this is how easy it really is to get these doors done. Okay, so now that all of your new speakers are in, go ahead and take your door card, pick it up. Like I said, we're still plugged in here through most of the wiring harness. If you went ahead and pulled out this really big plug to give yourself a little bit more room, go ahead and make sure to plug that right back in. And it should just slide right back into place without any problems. But the other thing we're gonna wanna do, so just like that, and the only other cable that we should have loose at this point is the Bowden cable, which has this little kind of flat top and a hook on it. This is going to hook into your door pull. So what I frequently will do is I'll make sure to hold my door pull just in case it's flopped open. And then normally what you'll do is you'll just take it, tip it, and kind of slide it into place and it'll click. Now, the one thing you're gonna wanna do before you put it back on is test it. Make sure that works, which it does. So you know the Bowden cable's plugged in correctly. Go ahead and put the foam part of this back in the little grips right here on the door, and then just feed it right back up to the door. Now, let me adjust my camera a little bit. So when we look at this here, we've got our door pin right here. Just feed it up through the door card itself, and then just line it all right back up. Now, all these clips across the top will hold really nicely. You just want to use your hand gently, and you'll hear those clips pop right back into place, just like that. Now, super simple. Now you've got all of those nylon pins that go around the outside. And when you go through this, gently use your hand and press them back into place. If you feel like there's one fighting you, look in between and make sure that it's lined up with the hole, because they can move a little bit. And if it's out of alignment, you can mash that nylon pin and break it. Okay, but make sure they're all lined up into place, and then gently use your hand to just smack it all back into place, and we're all good to go. Last thing you want to do is put the screws in. There's two across the bottom, the one right here as well, and then snap your cover back in. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get all the pins back in, then we'll put the screws in, and you're done with your door. Okay, so now once you've got your door card hung back up and you put those two bottom screws in, you put that third screw here, all you need to do is just put the cover on. So you can pull the door handle out, slide the cover in, and test your door handle to make sure it works, and this whole door is done. Now, I do want to show you there's one slight difference with the back door, with the tweeter actually being in the door card itself, so we're going to handle that a little bit differently. It's going to come off the exact same way. There's one screw down here at the bottom, there's one screw back behind that cover, so go ahead and pull the cover, pull the bottom screw, use your plastic trim tool all the way around the door card for the rear, and then it'll pop free. Now, there's one difference that I want to show to you with the door card off, because it's substantial enough that it's a little hard to see, and it's almost impossible to see when it's on the car. So let's go ahead and look at the rear door card that's already off. All right, so this is the driver's side rear door card. So when you pull it away from the car, it's going to be plugged in at this big plug right here. There's also a big long cable that comes through on a plastic rivet right here, and plugs into your door switch. Okay, and I've unplugged that completely, so I can take this away from the car, and you can also see where the tweeter is right here, and you can see where its run goes through. Okay, so the mid is still on the door, in the middle of the door itself, and the tweeter is here in the door card. Now, the one thing that's a little bit different here about the rear is there's this big metal clip right here in the center, and there's a post on the door that you'll see when we put this back that this snaps into this post to give a little bit more stability from the door card. So as you're pulling this off, you're gonna feel it being really tight right here in the center, and it's because of this clip post right here. It's not an additional screw or anything else like that. It's just that post. So it's a little firm to come off when you get it off. Now, while you have your door card off, go ahead and replace your tweeter. It's going to be the exact same thing. Use a pick tool, get it free of all these little fingers that hang onto it, pull it off, and you'll see where the wiring harness goes here and through right here. So we're going to get that pulled off and replaced. So let me go ahead and get the tweeter and this replaced, and then we'll look at the mid and the door, and we'll get this reinstalled. Okay, so I've got the new mid back into place. I've got the filter plugged in from the original wiring harness and plugged into the speaker firmly. So make sure that they plug in really, really well. And then really at this point, it's just going to be a matter of just bringing the door card up, plugging the tweeter off the door card into the mid, and then the rest of your wiring harness that I've unplugged, along with those nylon pins that go back into those little secure locations on the door card. Make sure when you hang your door card back up that it fits across these connections at the top, and it goes over the top of your door pin right there, and just put it right back in the same way along with your Bowden cable to connect it. Whenever I connect the Bowden cable back up, I always pull on the door handle a couple of times to make sure that it works, and then go ahead and secure the door card down, get all those nylon pins back in, put your screws back in, and you're good to go. All right, so now that all 4 of your doors are done, we're going to do the center channel, which is super easy. This cover, you just use a plastic trim tool, gently get underneath the edge of it, and you'll see that it'll start to lift. So just lift this up from all sides. It'll come all the way up, and then you'll have your tweeter and your mid here exposed right in the center. Now you should have one mid that looks different than all of the rest, and that's the one that goes here in the center channel. Okay, so go ahead and just use your plastic trim tool, get this cover up the rest of the way. As you can see, as it's coming up easily, just like that, nice and simple. And then we'll get the mid out, which you can see right there. All right, so let's go ahead and take the mid out next. So swapping the mid out is super simple. As you can see, you've got T20s again, 1, 2, 3, and 2 on for your tweeter, and this is that one shaped tweeter that you have as well. So the process is just the same. So go ahead and take both of these out, take out all 5 screws, put the filter onto your mid. So you have the wire that's going to come up from the wiring harness that goes into the filter that plugs into the mid, and then the tweeter plugs it back into the mid, secure it all back down, and then just press the cover back into place. It really is that simple. And then let's move on to the seats next. One quick thing to point out here before we move on, you can see the filter for the tweeter fits into this little groove right here. So it comes up, you feed in the extra cable underneath, and you can see the bell shape is pointed in the same orientation as the OEM. Cable then comes down through a notch right here into this opening void space for the mid. Then you can plug the tweeter into the mid and the original wiring harness with the filter into the mid, put it in, secure it down, put the cover on, and then we'll move to doing the subs underneath the seats. Okay, so here's your cover for your subs here directly underneath your seat. And you're going to have to move your seat to be able to get to them. So I want to stress this really, really strongly. Do not unplug your seat. So get to the wiring harness underneath and unplug it. Do not do that, okay? Because the battery is still plugged in, because I want to be able to run my seats forward and back as I do this. This is a T50 Torx bit bolt. There's 4 of them all the way around. The other thing is that I'll have it listed in the description the part number for these bolts. So depending on what you read, these are single use only. I've reused them many, many times. I've also replaced them a couple of times. So if you want to replace them, that's entirely up to you. I think you will be okay. But again, if you want, the part number will be in the description if you want to replace all 8, because obviously there's 4 on the other side. So I'm going to run the seats back, take the front ones out, run the seats forward, take the back ones out, and then I'm just going to shift the entire seat back, just kind of pick it up and shift it back so I can get to these covers. And there's 4 T20s all the way around, and to pull the covers off, then we can get to the subs. Okay, so go ahead and take all 4 of those bolts out, or all 8 for doing both seats, and then we'll move the seat back. Okay, so now that the seat is shifted back, you can get to the cover itself. There's 4 T20s all the way around, and this is always a great opportunity to vacuum underneath my seats. I always do. But you can take that cover off, and now you can see the sub. So this is where we're gonna have to start to peel some of this carpet back to be able to pry up enough of the carpet to be able to get to the screws that hold the sub down, okay? So you can see on this side, this edge kind of peels up and away. You can see this side kind of peels up and away. Now what you can also always do if you want is you can pull off your door seal trim right here with a plastic trim tool to get underneath it and pull that out, and then we can get this edge off. Now you also can just pull it straight out as well, which we're going to need to do to get to the plug for the sub right here. Okay, so just start to feed this back. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull this door trim on this side. I'm going to get my plastic trim tool here underneath and pop this up. It's got big plastic rivets that hold it down. Then I can take this carpet and peel it back enough to get to how this sub is secured down. So go ahead and do that next. Okay, so once you have that door trim off, and as you can see, there's big plastic rivets right here that I'm going to pull out here in a second, but I'm just going to leave them as is. You'll see that there's 4 T20s around the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding this down, and this big purple plug. There's a little locking tab right here that you press on it, and then this will come out. Then we can walk getting the sub out. So go ahead and take all 4 of those T20s out, and the sub is almost out. Okay, so carpet's peeled back. This is that frame where we just pulled those 4 T20s out, and I'm going to leave it in place because this wiring harness goes through and has a couple of these big nylon pins that sit on either side here, and you don't need to take them out if you can just lift it and get it out of the way. Once that's out of the way, you'll see in the corners 1, 2, 3, 4 silver T20 screws that go down through the plastic and to help hold this in place. Make sure that you've unplugged it. You can use a pick tool to pick at that little lever, and then on the inside of the plug right there, and then it comes out. Now, about your subs, there are times where BMW glues these down. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And in this case, thankfully, they didn't. So once those screws are out here, all the way around the perimeter of the sub can come loose. Now, if it's stuck down, you can take a pick tool, get between the border of the sub itself and the box it sits in and pry up gently, because sometimes they'll stick down a little bit just from sitting here over time. Now, if they're really stuck down or they're glued down, which I've had in a couple of occasions, and if you saw my X3 video, the subs are absolutely glued down. That takes a little bit extra work. You've got to take the entire box out. You've got to use a heat gun and pry and loosen up the glue and cut through the glue to get the sub out. Thankfully, that's not the case with this. So it was stuck down a little bit, so I got my pry tool up underneath and just kind of pried at it, and it popped free. And at this point, you just simply work it up and out of the box, just like that. And it's out. And then we're just going to take the new one and fit it right back into the same place. You're going to reuse those same 4 silver screws here that you had on the corners, here, here, and here, to secure the new one down. You'll plug it in, and then we're just going to walk back what we did, place the frame back on, and so on. But let me get the new one, let me get it into place, and we'll start putting it back together. All right, so as you can tell, the new one is in. Looks absolutely fantastic. I've put those 4 T20s back in around the perimeter. Then we're just going to feed this cover back into place underneath the carpet, get it set, get its 4 T20s back in, lay the carpet down, put the cover back on. Of course, we're going to put the door sill back on. You can take a pair of pliers and just grab a hold of these little rivets and work them out. And then the rivets slide into the tracks here on the door sill, and then you just line those back up and smack it with your hand back into place. Okay, so go ahead and walk all the way through that, get the cover back on, get the carpet back down, get your door sill back on, and then we'll walk through getting the seat back into place. All right, so making great progress. I love it. So this side is almost done. All we need to do now is just rock the seat back up into place. Now, when you put these bolts in, make sure, if you reuse these bolts, make sure to wipe off the threads. And you're going to have to use a torque wrench. So these are 42 Newton meters of torque per bolt. So slide it up into place. I always will just kind of hand dial the bolts in until the seat is settled and in the right place, because I don't want any extra tension on them until I tighten them down. Okay, so go ahead and get your seat up into place. If you haven't done the other side yet, just repeat the same over there, and you're basically done. All right, guys, go ahead and clean up, put your tools away. As you can tell, this really isn't a hard project. This is something you can easily do in an afternoon with a few simple tools. Everything you'll need will be listed in the video description below, including product links, tools, and torque values, and all those sort of things. I love these Bimmertech Alpha One speakers. I have them in a bunch of my own cars, and now this Mini Cooper, and it can make a huge difference to your daily drive and how just really enjoying being out in your car. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to click subscribe and the little alarm bell, as I have a ton of projects coming this year that I'm really excited to share with you. And I'll see you on my next video.